Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube. My name is Aggie, aka Nurse Ags. Now, in today's video, I want to talk about a topic that I feel like you don't hear a lot from labor and delivery nurses, and that is what they don't tell you about being a labor and delivery nurse. So for those of you who don't know, I have been a L&D nurse for over 3 years now, and I'm also an FNP student. To start, what they don't tell you about being a labor and delivery nurse is that it can be sad at times. Often people hear a labor and delivery and they're like, oh, like you must be cuddling babies all day. That really isn't the case. For one, that's not part of my job, cuddling babies. I have a whole other video about that, talking about the difference between L&D nurses, postpartum, and neonatal nurses. But for one, I'm not cuddling babies all day. And it's not always rainbows and butterflies. You know, there are fetal demises at times. Now, I will say I haven't had a situation where the mom, the baby died while in labor. Usually it's a case where the mom comes into the hospital because we already know the baby has passed, or the mom will come into the hospital because she hasn't felt baby move. And then, yes, we confirm that there are no fetal heart tones. So those situations are very devastating for the family, obviously, and that only trickles down to the staff. Just being a part of that experience is sad. Like, I don't know how else to put it. It's as sad as you think it is. Now, I have talked about how I deal with that, but that is just something that you have to keep in the back of your mind. If you are looking into labor and delivery, that is not always happy. You do have losses, and that can be really tough. Besides the fetal demises, other things that make labor and delivery not happy all the time is just having unstable family dynamics. Sometimes you don't have a solid support system, whether that's with, you know, a partner or with family. Sometimes they have their own drama that trickles into the labor and delivery room, and that affects the patient, and that alters her experience, her birthing experience. So you have to navigate that as well. Also, when it comes to not being all rainbows and butterflies, is there's going to be pain involved with labor and delivery. That's the one thing I can always guarantee my patient, is that they're going to feel uncomfortable, they're going to feel pain. That is necessary to give birth, and some patients, you know, cope with it better than others. We do have medications that get rid of the pain, thankfully. I do plan on getting an epidural when I have a kid one day, but nonetheless, you still have to experience that pain before you get to the point where you can get IV pain medication or an epidural. So you have to be able to be okay with being around a patient in pain. I feel like in other specialty areas, if someone's feeling pain, like, that's not good, we need to fix it. Whereas in labor and delivery, that's actually a good sign. That means they're making progress, and just making sure that y'all are on the same page as far as how well they're tolerating it, and, you know, strategies as to how to cope with it in the best way. Other reasons why labor and delivery can be very challenging emotionally is I have seen some decisions from the provider that I, as a nurse, would not make for that patient, as far as, you know, where we're going. Now, I will say it's never been an unsafe situation at all. If it is, then I definitely, you have to intervene regardless. And if you don't intervene, then your charge nurse will intervene. So it's never like an unsafe situation, but it's just, you know, for example, like giving them the best shot of having a successful vaginal delivery, or if you're kind of like doing things that are ultimately going to lead to a C-section down the road, if that makes sense. So yeah, there's going to be times where you disagree with the plan of care, and you as an L&D nurse have to know either when to step in, or if you can't change anything about it, learning how to deal with that emotionally. That's something else to think about, okay? Something else they don't tell you about labor and delivery nursing is that it can be extremely overwhelming. I have new nurses that come in who I orient to the floor. I teach them the ways of the unit and how to be an L&D nurse, and I can't tell you how many times that I have heard them say, wow, I did not know there was so much that could go on in labor and delivery. So you might think it's as easy as, you know, laboring the patient, delivering the baby, recovering the mom, and that's it. But the fact of the matter is that our population is getting sicker and sicker, and depending on where you work, if you do see a lot of sick patients, whether that be a patient with preeclampsia, diabetes, those things complicate everything else, and so you start adding medications that you as an L&D nurse have to manage, and that can get quite overwhelming because not only are you managing the medications, but now you have to do a closer monitoring of the baby, the mom, and assessment of the baby and the mom. So for example, on my first day of precepting this new nurse, we had quite the patient assignment, and it didn't start off that way because usually if you start off with a high acuity assignment, then they will kind of rearrange the nurses to make it a little bit more balanced. But it kind of went from being like, you know, okay, manageable to okay, things are adding up. So one of our patients, she just came in to be induced for labor. I can't quite remember for what, but came in, she actually had high blood pressure. We did some labs on her to rule out preeclampsia, which is high blood pressure caused by pregnancy, and they came back basically actually saying she does have preeclampsia. So the provider wanted her to be started on a medication called magnesium sulfate, which is a high alert medication. So this medication required a lot of assessments. So she had that on top of Pitocin that we were managing, and then on top of that, she was a gestational diabetic, insulin controlled. So she had an insulin drip. So that's another medication we had to manage. And like I said, we're going into her room every 30 minutes, every hour to manage those medications, to reposition the patient. She also got an epidural eventually. So it was a lot going on. And that wasn't our only patient. It should have been our only patient, but we had a whole other patient that was in labor. So that is one example. It's not always like that. And thankfully, we did have the help of our team leader, which is almost like a charge nurse. She was helping us with the other patient, but to say the least, my orientee was like, WTF, what have I got myself into? And I could not even blame her. So yes, things can be quite intense. It can be high acuity in labor and delivery. It's not always normal, simple, healthy labors and vaginal deliveries. The final thing that to kind of add a cherry on top about what they don't tell you about labor and delivery nurse is, on top of having to do all those things with your high acuity patients and managing their care, you have to chart on top of that, which I don't think you can really appreciate the tediousness and the annoyance of charting, especially when you have a patient on multiple medications and whom you're doing many things for. That charting can just be the cherry on top that's like, oh, I'm just done with this night or with this shift in general. But that is probably the most important thing, because at the end of the day, if you did not chart it, that means you did not do it. So you have to be sure to chart. But that, I think, concludes everything I want to share with you guys about what they don't tell you about being a labor and delivery nurse. I hope this gives you some insight if this is a specialty area that you're looking into. It is not at all by any means meant to discourage you from pursuing the specialty. I have a whole other video as to why I love labor and delivery, and to be quite frank, I don't think there's any other specialty area that I would be interested in working in. But there are these things that, you know, just kind of give you like the realness of the specialty area. So that concludes it. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you do, please give the video a thumbs up and comment down below. I will see you guys on the next video. Bye.